Today on the Miss Pursuit podcast, we talk with Heather Shepard out of North Carolina. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, thank you everybody for joining us on the Miss Pursuit podcast. Today, Heather Shepard is joining us from North Carolina. And Heather, thank you so much for joining.
Yes, thank you, Amy, for having me. I'm excited.
I am too. I can't wait to hear your story and how you have gotten into not only the outdoors and hunting world, but you kind of have your hands in a whole lot of different, like you wear a lot of hats. And so I'm excited to kind of hear how everything comes together in your life. And so I kind of want you to give us a background on who you are and how you've gotten started, just how the outdoors has infiltrated your life.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if it all comes together, but it's together for sure. So, as you mentioned, my name's Heather Shepard, and I'm a Carolina girl. I'm a wife and a mother of one. I've got a little girl. She's 7, and her name is Piper. So growing up, I grew up in a family where hunting was a way of life, right? And shooting sport and clays was the competition. So my daddy pushed us harder than most to respect the value of what we had and become involved in every aspect. So more now than ever, I'm grateful kind of for the lessons in life as I raised Piper the same. I have more stories than I can think of. They all have a special place, but I strive to educate and kind of help people as they grow up in their love for the outdoors. So as I started that journey, and I'll fast forward through my child grade years, but as I got older, I had the opportunity. My dad was a part of a closed membership, what we call the Wake County Wildlife Club here in North Carolina. And it's a private club that's very highly valued in the community, I would say. So with that, growing up in it and learning more about it, it kind of pushed me to become, I think, the person that I am now. And what I mean by that is, you know, obviously we all grow up hunting, or some of us do, with the respect of the outdoors, but there's a different side of it when you completely involve yourself in the community work, the volunteer time, the education, the conservation of the community, and actually what conservation means. And so I took the leap and joined that club. I want to say it was in 2012. And then as I kind of climbed the ladder, I started getting into the board side of it, all the way from you start as a secretary and come up to the president level. And you learn a lot about that. And that kind of gave me a lot of hats to wear and a lot of things in the community to introduce myself to people. And, you know, it's not about what you know, but who you know nowadays. And that opens the doors for a lot. So, I would kind of say that was my kicker in a lot of things and a lot of directions in life that I've chosen to take now, alongside of who I am and what I do on a daily with work and everything else.
Right. I go back to what you were, first of all, I love hearing a Southern accent. I said that when we first got on the phone, and I talked to a lot of people on the West Coast and up north in Alaska. And I think talking to you and talking to Carly, it is a breath of fresh air to hear somebody with an accent that is close to mine. It's like, I can relate, sister. It's like, you know, chicken and dumplings, you know, biscuits and gravy, you know, the outdoors. Like, it's like, okay, we're there. And so, but then take it back to what you were saying about, yeah, we can all grow up in the outdoors, but actually getting into the community part of it and into the conservation side of it, and not just the word conservation, but the boots on the ground conservation side of it. It brings it full circle.
It definitely does. It's a different meaning for a lot of people.
Yeah, it really is. And being you growing up in it as a daughter, and then having a daughter also has a whole different side to it. Just bringing it full circle in that as well.
Yes, it does. It does. It's one of those things where, especially as a mom, and as you know, you want them to kind of grow up in the same area. So you learn a lot, not only again about, you know, the outdoors and stuff, but how it's portrayed in somebody else's eyes, and how you kind of filter that through teaching somebody else gives you the ability to learn more. So it's awesome for all aspects of it.
I agree 100%. I think of course, you learn more as you're teaching. It's like you learn, you do, you teach. And each one of those parts of a lesson, it grows you in different ways. And so you take something different from each of those ways that you are growing. But also, I think, I see my daughter and my son growing up, and what we're teaching them, I didn't come from a background from that. So I'm excited to see when they become adults and they have their own kids, kind of how they bring it full circle. It's going to be very exciting to be a part of that.
That will definitely be exciting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Tell me, like, along the way, you've said you've been a part of this community for a while now and growing up in it. Have you had any women along the way who have mentored you in the outdoors, in conservation, or in hunting?
So that answer is actually no. Mm-hmm. My mother was not involved. She was not against it by any means, of course, but it was all my dad growing up. I actually had, honestly, no friends, no family around me that hunted. That was a woman. Everybody around me was a male figure, whether it be my brother, or, you know, uncles, or friends of my father. But no women, not until today that I've kind of expanded that search. And I now have ladies out there to join on hunts and explore the outdoors. But it was a struggle for a while. I was very different. I was an outcast when I was in school. A lot of people looked at me differently. Mm-hmm. I was the quote unquote different girl, although I did have the sass when it was needed. I was a cheerleader and a dancer. But when it was a big deal when they came over. So I grew up in a log cabin that my father built, and everybody liked to call it the dead cemetery.
Oh my gosh.
You walk in the house and there were deer heads and bears and turkeys and all that good stuff all over the place. And to some, it freaked them out, and they wouldn't come back. And then, of course, that started the conversations within school and who I was and how I hung out with the boys and what I did on my spare time. But you get over it. You learn to love it and appreciate it, and are grateful for the past, because it makes you stronger as a person. Yeah.
But it doesn't feel good sometimes there in the moment, the being ostracized and, I don't know, a little lonely for sure.
Oh, it is. It is.
And like you said, you were surrounded by men who accepted you and walked alongside of you with that, and a mom that supported you. But there's something about that female bond that, especially in your teenage years, middle school, that it can be a little, I don't know, it's the toughest time. And so to have that you're leaning into, that's a little difficult.
It can be, yes, especially like you said, within the moment. But we take that with pride and kind of teach it to our generation and our kids, and use that experience to further them and let them understand that, you know, it's different, and take it with what it is and learn from it and kind of move forward.
So I have a daughter in middle school, and I think this year has been probably one of the more difficult years. She's in a school that I would say has a majority of liberal families and kids that don't necessarily have a hand in what we do, hunting and in the outdoors. And so when she takes leftovers, it's wild game. And there are very few people there who have been supportive. She's actually had friends who have moved tables at lunchtime and have asked questions, and when an answer is given, it is not received well. And so tackling that this year, I didn't have to do that growing up because I wasn't in it, but we were also in a rural area where, you know, a friend would come and do a presentation on cow castration. Like, you know, I grew up in an area that 4-H was all around us. And so for her to be in a more city area, I don't know, I'm navigating that with her as a parent who is protective, but at the same time trying to teach my daughter that you are different, but there are also other kids who are different. And so there are all kinds of lessons that go in with it.
Exactly. No, that is tough. And we didn't grow up. 4-H was around when I was in grade school, but it wasn't as big as it was in certain areas, kind of like where you were from, Amy. But
yeah.
it was there, and it kind of slowly disappeared, I would say, throughout the years. And now, more than ever, obviously, where it's needed, it's not here. And you can see some of the schools are slowly starting to bring back, not necessarily 4-H. It's more directed on the agriculture side, but as well as shooting sports. And so that's a good thing to start to see now.
Yes.
Kind of see how the full cycle of it goes, comes and comes back.
It's very true. We've noticed, I think my daughter was telling me the other day that her school actually has a shooting club, and I was completely floored, and it was exciting to hear. And she said it might be something that she's interested in later, and she'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's my insecurities coming out, feeling like I need to protect her. But it's also, I think, I don't know. She has learned a lot of great lessons this year, and I think most of them have been how to, how to walk around feeling proud of who she is, and at the same time understanding that people around here don't necessarily understand, and it's just conversation. You don't have to get defensive. You don't have to get angry. You don't have to be louder. You don't have to win that argument. It's just a conversation. Just educate them. Tell them what you do, why you do it, and then let it sit for a little while. You don't have to push it.
You're exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Middle school and high school. Let's just, that's hard.
I'm glad you're there, but I'm not ready for that yet.
I know the preteen, we've got one more year before teenage years, but anyways.
Bless your heart.
Yeah. That's a whole nother, we could have a whole nother conversation on that one.
Oh, yeah.
But tell me, I know that I have, in the 6 years that I've been hunting, there have been multiple lessons that I've had along the way. Some are comfortable, some are very uncomfortable, some ended badly, some ended great. But tell me if you've got, I know you had to, because you've said you've got stories like crazy, but tell me a couple of the lessons that you have learned growing up, being in the outdoors, or being a part of this community and in conservation, that you hold tightly now, the important ones.
Oh gosh, there are a lot. I'll start with the personal experiences from the past. So my father was a master shooter in sporting clay. So what that meant was he shot tournaments every weekend. You've got different style tournaments. You've got FETASH, 5 stands, and then your normal sporting round. So on the weekends, my brother and I, we would go to the hunt club, and on Sundays it was normal to be at the sporting clays, depending on what area, what location we were in. So for me, as I grew older, there were times obviously where I wouldn't go directly with my father. And on the outside looking in, everybody assumed, because my father can shoot a whole round from the hip, meaning he never shoulders the gun, and make a perfect score, that I was going to be this lady or this girl that was going to be the same. And so in my head there, for the longest time, I tried to perceive and give them what they were looking for, rather than truly asking questions on how I should, what my form should be, if I was doing it right, the guidance and the help that you're supposed to ask for.
Yep.
So long story short with that one is, and it goes the same for me and my daughter. So kind of teaching her how to swim. I feel like you're taught better away from a parent, because you feel like they nag you and push on you so much.
Yes.
That it doesn't sit well with you, and you more so get angry at each other rather than help each other out. So learning from somebody else, I would advise, if I look back on it now with all those years, I wish I would have took the time to stop and say, look, I'm not as good as my father. I need help with this. What's my problem here? Why am I not shooting straight there? So that was a big piece that still sits with me actually now, even when I shoulder a gun on a round with a group of guys, it's still the same thought process. But in terms of hunting, as a woman, we have a lot of struggles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times if you go out, and again, and up until I would say, I don't know, maybe it hadn't been long, 2-3 years ago, all my time before that, I would go on these trips. And another thing to kind of throw out there, Amy, is my husband doesn't hunt.
Okay. Yeah.
So he did growing up, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And he will if I truly beg him to go out there with me. But when he moved from Virginia to North Carolina, he didn't have the resources to hunt. And so it wasn't readily available to him. And he didn't know the people at the time. So he picked other hobbies.
Right.
He's a fabricator and a racer now, and that's his world. So he respects my world. I do the same for his.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I just pick a group of friends, guys, I kind of call them my brothers, and we go out and hunt together. So you've got different mindsets. So there's the women out there that feel like they need to know that they are women hunting with them,
Mm-hmm.
and they need to be treated different. And then there's people like myself who, if I'm going on a moose hunt or if I'm going on an elk hunt out west, I don't want you to treat me any different than
Yep.
you're going to treat the guy beside me.
Yeah.
So give me the same respect as well as expect the same out of me.
Right.
And that's a big lesson.
Mm-hmm.
I could give stories upon stories about instances with that and how I reacted to it, what the actual situation was. But I'll give you a recent one. It was 2 years ago. I was in Colorado, northwest Colorado, elk hunting during rifle season, and it had been a long week. We were chasing a certain elk that I had set on my mind, and I finally had to let it go because a lot of times we get that one animal and it takes our hunting trip completely away from us. But
Yeah.
I finally decided to get off my high horse and give another opportunity a chance. And so when I did, it became what we call, quote unquote, Hell's Canyon. And what I meant by that is that bull decided that he was going to be very hard to handle.
Uh-huh.
And so it took a while to get him. And once we got him down, he was in the bottom of a canyon that took us all night. With that being said, they started the whole conversation of, you don't need to go down there. Let us handle this. We'll pull. And
Whoa.
I got in an argument on the mountain, and I was like, absolutely not.
Mm-mm.
I know it's dark. I know it's dangerous. Let me do this. This is my animal.
Right.
This is my time and my memory. And so, you go through that process out in the field, and it's all in how you handle it. And they understood, and they apologized at the end and said, look, I underestimated you.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize. And I wouldn't say I'm a tiny girl, but I'm not a big girl either. But I feel like I can hold my own weight, and you somewhat have to prove yourself to a lot of people nowadays on how you can do it and how it's possible for you to be the same as the guy beside you. So
that's there are so many things I could take from everything that you just said, and I'll hit on that because I think you and I are very similar in that mindset. I was on a goose hunt a couple of weeks ago, and the only girl out there, which I'm perfectly okay with, and I just wanted to hunt. Like, that's just it. I just wanted to hunt. And everybody was very respectful, and everybody treated me with complete respect and held me to my own responsibility on that trip. But it is, when you walk into it, like the guide that was with us looked down at one point and said, "Hey, you going to be okay down there? Can you see over?" Because we were down in a pit blind, and he said, "Are you going to be able? Can you see?" And I'm short. I'm 5'2". And there, I could see enough that I can shoot the geese down. But he was like, "There's a stool up there. And I go, "No, I'm good. I'm good. I am safe. I can shoot out and over safely. I can see geese as they come in. No, I cannot see the ground, but that's perfectly fine. Like, you don't have to see the ground. I'm not shooting at the ground. But just treat me like a hunter. Treat me like all the other 6 guys that are out here. And and let's just hunt because that's all I want to do. So I get that feeling. And at the end, being able to walk away from a hunt and people look back and say, you held your own. Thank you for being a part of this group. We have learned a lot being around you. That's a great feeling.
It really is. And I almost tell people, especially my husband, and again, God, I'm grateful for him because, again, I'm going to throw this out there. What husband lets their wife go off and hunt all the time with guys? And he has this understanding and of my passion and my love for it. But I always tell him I feel like I need a day before my hunt starts because that day is full of me explaining who I am, what I've done, all the questions I'm going to get at camp. And then, they build their opinions and they've got all their expectations. And then you go out there and hunt and it's kind of like they throw their hands up and sit there and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe that, you did this. And it's like, well, why can you not believe it? So I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. And I think if we do take a step back and look at big picture, you take an inexperienced hunter, male or female, you take a stranger who's coming to hunt, male or female, and you're going to question, are they going to be good for this team? Are they going to pull their weight? Are they going to? So I have to hand, I would do that going on a trip, whether you're a man or a woman. Are you going to be able to put into this hunt like everybody else can? But I think that when push comes to shove, I think that the question, like you're still questioned as a woman getting out there, are you? And there's surprise in it afterwards. Whereas I think at the end of a hunt, there's no surprise when they look back at a man. Oh, I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you actually, were able to help, bring meat back up, or like it's not a surprise at the end of it. So I think it's that retrospect, that that hindsight, that the response is different for your gender.
It is. I agree. And then you kind of build that team that you start traveling and hunting with, and that becomes your group. Everybody knows everybody's expertise, their weaknesses, their strengths, and how you can ping off each other to help throughout the course of that time. Yeah,
you become like a well-oiled machine. It just works.
Exactly.
And I love that. But I also want to go back to you saying learning from somebody else is the way to go. There have been multiple instances. I mean, personally, like learning how to drive a stick shift. I didn't know how to drive one growing up, but when I was learning how to as an adult, a married woman, everybody kept saying, your spouse does not need to teach you. Like that, like the people that you are close, the people that you are close to, your dad, your mom, it's different. It's, there are frustrations that you can let out. There are expectations that, are either too high or too low. I think having somebody, a third party, come in and teach those things is very similar. It just works better that way. In archery, I've noticed, I taught NASP for a little bit with my kids in school, and I noticed that teaching them competition archery, I kind of lost, like I was not doing well with hunting archery because it's totally different. And so I'm actually having to take a step back right now and say, hey, I'm going to need to ask for help because I need to do this in a way that's not going to hurt my shoulder. I blew my shoulder last year. So I need to be able to ask for help outside of somebody close to me. And so I get that 100%. It is, with a third party, there aren't expectations. It's like, okay, start me from zero. Like start me from where you think I don't know anything, because I want to be good. I want to be an ethical hunter. I want to be a good shooter. I want, these are my goals. Get me there. And when you have somebody close to you doing that, sometimes it gets clouded.
I agree. No, it is. And kind of like you said, we're so quick to respond to those that we know, whether it's we just want to tell them to, shut their mouth, or
Yeah.
how we really feel about them in the midst of knowing that we're not doing it right at that moment. But
Yeah.
that expectation of a stranger, you feel more poised and more structure to be able to listen and actually take the criticism well.
Yep. I noticed that even though I was coaching with my daughter, I actually did not coach my daughter as much as I could. I let the other coaches take that because of that reason. I knew that she was like me. I knew that her mindset was like me. And I knew that whatever I said, she might do the opposite. And so it would just be better for both of us, for her to learn from somebody else. And there were plenty of other kids that needed coaching. So I saw her flourish more by gaining that relationship with a different coach. And I think it just worked. It worked out better. And it usually always does.
It's crazy how it happens that way.
I know it. Okay, I want to dive into some of these hats that you wear, because you've got, like we were talking about, the community that you're in with hunting, and how you've kind of worked up through that. But you also, I've noticed on your Instagram, like, you're big into CBD, which is we're full believers in CBD in our family. Just all of the different things that it truly works for. But then you've also got the Dixie Deer Classic. You've got your hunt community. You've got Miss Pursuit, and then work, whatever else is on your plate. Let's touch on a couple of these things, because I do see how CBD crosses over into a couple of these things, especially with the physical aspect of it in your health and all of that. But let's start there first, because that is something that I can relate to 100%. How has that been influential in your life?
Absolutely. So CBD, love that it's a part of your family and you guys are believers. That makes me smile big. So I'll kind of tell you how I got into CBD. And I'm one of those where, and I kind of say this lightly with people, because I don't think some people fully understand, or should I say back up and say that people misuse the word anxiety. So I've always had some issues, and I think as I've gotten older, my anxiety triggers have gotten a lot worse. So I was going back and forth to different doctors and getting different opinions, and through therapists to help out. And at the light of one, of course, they want to put you on medicine right away to kind of help you control your anxiety and your issues around you. Anxiety leads to different things like not being able to sleep, having mood swings, sweats, all different things. And then, of course, as a mother, it leads to those mood swings relaying to your family and to your children. And that's something that you truly want to take control of right away. So I started thinking about the medications, and I started researching them, and I'm not a medication person. I don't even like taking Tylenol or ibuprofen. So it really gave me the need, I guess, to research a lot. And so I was sitting down having coffee with a girlfriend of mine, and she mentioned, look, I know I don't want to put this on you. I know we didn't meet for me to sell you on anything, but I'm selling CBD. Why don't you take this bottle I just purchased and try it out? Start small, see how it relates to your body. And then if it does anything, you can slowly kind of increase your dosage and what you're doing. And so I did that for about a month, and oh my gosh, Amy, it was like, and I say this all the time, it really was like a miracle. Like it just flipped a switch on me. So of course I went back to my doctor, started asking him questions about CBD and what his thoughts on it were. And he said, look, if it works for you, by all means, it is safe. It is healthy. It's organic. Try it out. You won't have to use medication. And so I continued that path. And through that process, I saw different things that it triggered with. Obviously, I wanted it all on anxiety related. But at the same time, it started helping with sleep. It started helping with muscle pains. I work out about an hour every day. So we have those certain areas in our body that start to hurt. And of course, there's different forms of CBD. You've got your tinctures that you can take orally, but then you've also got creams. So I started expanding my reach with CBD on the different products that were offered. And I fell in love with a company that's locally here in North Carolina. It's based out of Wilmington, called Green Compass. Researched them quite a bit. And when I mean research, kind of all their products, their seals, what they've done in the past, what opportunities they have, where the farms were. You can actually go out to the farms, watch the process from true seed to seal. Learning all that, and once you kind of fully immerse yourself into that world, that opportunity comes, right? So I sat back and thought about it and said, look, I'm already using it. I believe in it so much. Why not reverse that and begin to show that to other people and share that story with others? And so that's kind of what got me started in the CBD. And of course, with hunting, we use our muscles in all different sorts of ways, whether it's, like you said, geese hunting, duck hunting, whether you're hiking through the mountains on the west, going through swamps here on the East Coast, all those muscles are getting used in different ways. So there's different, ways you can use CBD, and it's endless. Kids can use it. My daughter can use it for sleepless nights. She had sleep terrors growing up, and it kind of still affects her a little bit. So we use it if needed, as well as our animals. Our dogs use it. They do have pet specific stuff. So gosh, I could talk about CBD for hours, but
I know I can tell you that we have hit, my son had, it's like with kids, certain things trigger that anxiousness. And we hit that a couple of years ago with my son, and it was debilitating. I mean, it was debilitating for him, for our family. And somebody suggested CBD. And at that point in time, the counselor that he was going to was saying, medication might be something that you need to think about. And we just kept going back and forth, not feeling easy about that. So that when we started him on CBD oil, it was like night and day. I mean, it took a little bit of time there in the beginning. But it was more so if we came off of it that he would feel, and it got to a point where he would say, hey, I feel as though I need this. And he would also say, hey, I feel that I'm okay. And I don't need it right now. And so, I mean, it was probably a 2-year, we figured in between CBD oil and taking him off Zyrtec, it alleviated all of the anxiousness that he was feeling about school, about being in a car, claustrophobia, all of that. It was like it melted off of his shoulders. He started gaining weight. Awesome. He started like interacting. The fear going to school wasn't there. He's got friends, like all of this. And so, full believers. My husband has back pain. The sleep, like you said, it has been amazing to our family. That's
so great to hear.
I mean, when you come, and I think my husband even says it, he'll be taking it and he'll say, well, I don't know if it's doing anything. And a couple of days without it, he goes, and there it is.
It is. And I tell people that I talk to a lot of people on, it was there for a while, a daily basis, but weekly, I would say that, come to me, one, they're either scared to take it, or two, they're taking it and they're not. Like you said, they don't feel like they're seeing the results. And what I always prepare people is, look, everybody's different. Yeah. All your bodies are different. Yeah. So starting small dosage and then working your way up. It's not about taking a whole dropper or taking the most amount and assuming it's going to work. It's a process that can take time, and it can take a couple weeks. For me, it took almost 4 weeks for me to see a true, I wouldn't say 100%, but to start to see, oh my God, like you said, this is changing, and I always tell people to write down a list of things you hope that will be better, that might transition through that process. And it's pretty crazy to see that transition start to happen. And again, what's the fear in taking it? It's organic. It's not going to hurt you. It's not addictive. just try it.
Yeah.
You know, what's the cost? It's maybe $2 a day to help you get off medication or whatever issues you might be having.
No, we've loved it. That's why when I saw that was on your platform there, on what you stand for and what kind of, I guess, explains who you are and what you're doing in life, it excited me. I wanted to definitely get it out there because I think it is. People are talking about it more and more and more, and it has become more readily available. You do need to make sure that you're getting the right stuff, that you're not getting
Absolutely.
Crap, because it is out there. But I think that it has become more acceptable, and I'm grateful for it.
It has, yes. And thank you so much for asking me about that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, tell me about Dixie Deer Classic, because I see that too. And I kind of looked into that, and tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So when I was talking in the beginning about the Wake County Wildlife Club, so we are the owners of the Dixie Deer Classic. And how this started was, this was actually our 40th anniversary this year that just passed like 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
And that show was started, again, through the Wake County Wildlife Club to be kind of, and I say this lightly, but it started because we started in the Wake County Wildlife Club years ago needing a money backer. The Wake County Wildlife Club, of course, is a voluntary nonprofit club that exists for multiple purposes. And a lot of those purposes could be to put sportsmen, you know, in certain groups, or to hold children events,
right?
Bow events. And what I mean by bow is becoming an outdoor woman. I teach 2 of those a year. We've got 15 to 20 classes of hunter's education we do. We do 3 huge camps throughout the course of the summer where we sponsor children for a week to go into the outdoors at camp. There's a lot of things that we do. And then, of course, in order to do that or anything in life now, you need money. And so that the Dixie Deer Classic show started 40 years ago, and it became the baseline of what funds the Wake County Wildlife Club. And so everybody at the Classic is 100% volunteer. It takes quite the amount of volunteers, and we are very grateful for all of our volunteers that help put this show on. But it's the largest deer show on the Southeast. We actually were the first to kind of start the show business, I would say, on the hunting side. And now you, of course, see the ATA, the NWTF, the Safari Club. You start seeing all those shows pop up now. But it is a way for, and ours, of course, is a public show, and it's a way for the public to come and enjoy for the course of the weekend. Different vendors, learn different outfitters. We've got workshops that we do throughout the course. We've got a lot of scavenger hunts for kids, so it gets the kids involved. They can fish, meet people in the industry. It's just a good old time.
Yeah, and
we enjoy it.
Family oriented, which makes it a whole lot easier.
Very family oriented. And then my role within the Classic, I'm the show office manager. So in and out, the vendors work with me to book year to year. I help them. We help map it out and do all that stuff on the show side of it. And then it all runs smoothly.
That's awesome. I've been to a couple this year, and it's been fun just to be able to see some of the same people from show to show, and you start getting, relationships grow. And
you do.
It's, I can't imagine 40 years of it, how it's more like a reunion versus a show.
It is. Of course, not 40 years for me, but
no.
I'm not quite 40 yet. So,
no.
Not far from it, but no, it is. And like you said, you kind of build those relationships. So I started getting into the show community when I wanted to expand different ideas. The Dixie Deer Classic, I feel like, is a very old school Southern show that there's a lot of areas we could grow in, and we're working towards that too. But a lot of people like that home style feel that we still have. So I started, I want to say about 6 years ago or so, started going to the ATAs and the NWTS and really using that as to making connections of what we can grow on. And you learn, like you said, all the different people that go from show to show and create those relationships and grow. And some of those people are actually, the groups of people I hunt with on a monthly basis. So I've learned and met a lot of great people throughout this process.
I love that. I love it. I love that not only does social media close that circle, especially for women, in creating relationships with like-minded women in the outdoors, but also men. It closes that circle a little bit tighter. We live in a big world, and so to draw it in just a little bit and create less distance between us is always something great to be able to do.
It is. I agree.
And I think that's kind of like what Carly has been doing with Miss Pursuit, with her brand is drawing people in from different parts of the world, from different parts of hunting and outdoors in our communities, and pulling it in tighter for the women in our community. And I've enjoyed being a part of that, but I've also enjoyed watching and learning from everybody else that has come on board as well. And I'd like for you to be able to kind of give what your part is in that and how you're contributing to it.
No, I agree. I agree that Carly has done something great. And like you said, kind of the online community, whether it be via Instagram or Facebook, has really helped a lot of the women with their uncertainties and their uneasiness of getting in front of the men to ask questions and to learn a little bit more, especially if you didn't grow up in a family where you had men to direct you or anybody, man or woman, to help you, in the outdoors. So I feel like avenues that one like Carly has created with Miss Pursuit has definitely helped a lot of women. And I get excited when these groups come together, and I definitely appreciate and was very grateful when Carly did reach out to me and asked me to become an influencer within the group. So I feel like even though we're still fresh and still kind of learning everybody's expertise and kind of what they do and who they are, where they came from, it's an opportunity to showcase experiences that we all love, right? To reach, a market and an audience, to grow the presence that we can use to help other women.
Yes.
And so I feel like we each have an individual factor that we can add to the group. Like you said, some might not even be hunters. They might be, field to table type people who grow their plants, grow their vegetables. They have their garden, and that's their expertise. They can teach us a little bit on that side, or it could be somebody that lives off the grid or, lives in the woods, and that's, that's them versus somebody that fishes or somebody that directly hunts wild game. So a lot of different categories, I guess is the right one to say, where we don't feel too confined or constricted by kind of like our niche. But I feel like it's going to be a great group.
I agree. I feel lucky podcasting.
I do too.
I feel lucky podcasting because I feel like I've gotten to know a few of us a little bit more personally, and hear each of you guys' hearts, and truly the common thread is our love for other people and for helping and teaching and being a part of an ethical group of women who are there to answer questions. I mean, truly, that is that's kind of the background behind it. I mean, Carly has a heart for saying, look, this is the bottom. This is where you can start. This is, the terms of everything in the outdoors, all the way to how do you cook it? How do you maintain your wild game in a freezer? Like all from start to finish. But then how can you connect? And I think that this world, I mean, we're living in it right now in a disconnect. And I think that the like-minded goal of everybody involved right now is to connect and to love on each other, and that no question is too stupid. You can't, nobody's going to make fun of you for being, for not knowing something. It's welcoming, it's open, it's a safe place. And I think that with everybody that I've talked to so far, that has been the common thread, just complete openness and desire for a close-knit community.
I agree. And of course, here in the South, what we call Carly is a heart of gold.
It's true.
But it does take that one person to kind of put that, I mean, because women can be mean, don't get me wrong. So, it's hard, especially in today's world, I would say. People feel like they have to compete with each other. And so it takes that one person to reach out and say, hey, look, let's all work together for the greater good. Let's all help each other out. And then once you feel, that comfort and that ease and that peace, like you said, within the group, it just, gosh, the sky's the limit.
It's true. It's very true. And I think that, going back to that I think every single woman that is a part of this is a strong-minded woman. We are bosses. Like we are not women who shy away from a confrontation or a conversation or calling somebody out. Like that's every single person that I've talked to. That is the person that I'm talking to. But at the same time, to see the softness and the willingness to be open, like you don't get those two things a whole lot. And so to find a group of women that encompass all of that is really special.
It is. And I feel like one day I need to sit down with Carly, or at least on the phone, and kind of just ask her, how long did it take her? And I don't know about you, Amy, but for me, when she reached out to me and asked me, of course, I was on the nosy side. So I said, do you mind providing me with a list of kind of who you're reaching out to?
Yeah.
And when she gave me that list, it blew me away. Mm-hmm. I mean, it ultimately blew me away, the women that were on that list.
Yeah.
And the time that she took to dig into who these women were.
Yes.
It's hard to find, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. Carly and I met. Well, we haven't met yet. One day that's going to happen.
It is.
We're going to meet. But Carly and I first had a conversation when I was doing a podcast series for Guy over at Western Contours in California. And we were just chatting. And I think she was the only person out of the whole group that that was from the South. And so immediately we were talking and I went, oh my goodness, we kind of like with you. It's just there's an ease in that conversation. But hearing her story and how she got started and how it wasn't easy, and how she had to really push herself and she wants to know it all. And, her story is a good one. It's a really good one. And I think that everybody that she has brought on to this platform, they don't have similar stories to hers, but they have that similar thread. And I can't say it enough, just that they are strong-minded women who have soft hearts that are open to others. And I love that.
I agree. And it's almost kind of like you said, Amy, in your bullets earlier, that it's one of your bullets kind of stuck out to me. It's women pushing outside their comfort zones. Mm-hmm. We're not afraid to go outside of our comfort zone, but at the same time, we still have that care and that passion.
Yeah.
To be a woman.
Yeah. We just want to hunt, or we just want to be in the outdoors, or we just want all of these things. But we also aren't afraid to say that we are women and we're strong enough to do it. And that's a sweet side of it, that we get to be able to do that alongside other women. And I think that we are pushing outside of our comfort zones to do some of these things, but I think that we're also encouraging each other and inspiring each other and those out there to continue pushing themselves, because, you can get complacent and it's easy to stick with what you're comfortable with. But then to have somebody walk alongside of you saying, well, this is what I did last year. And you go, well, I want to do that.
Amen.
I want to try that.
I agree.
I can do that. And honestly, that inspiration has come from men and women who are in our community who I see as ethical, strong, able-bodied people who respect each other and who are honest about the good and the bad. And you see a very transparent life coming off of even just social media. So I don't know. It's going to be exciting to see where this goes.
I second that. I'm excited to see it, at least this year too.
Yeah. Yep. Well, tell me before we end up, what are some of your goals for this year? I ask this question a lot and people are like, well, I've got this hunt on my goal and I've got this hunt and this, and I want to remind people those are great goals, but what are some of your goals in growth as well this year?
Oh, I have about 350 goals that I keep on a list at all times. So that's a strong one. I'm very goal-minded, especially with my day-to-day job too. But so for me right now, my daughter is 7. So it's the time of her life where she truly is holding on to what she's learning. And this time more now than ever is for me to focus on her. And again, I've got my hunting trips planned. I've got everything out there that I want to do on my side. Although my New Zealand trip, I just had to cancel given this coronavirus.
Yeah.
So that is one of my goals is my char, but I'll get there. We'll reschedule it and it'll be fine. But again, for her, my focus is more on her. So I want her to get her first animal with a bow.
Yeah.
We've been working. She's comfortable with the crossbow. She actually got a compound bow this past year from my dad for Christmas. And so she started using that, and I just want to get the ease of her to be able to get her completely comfortable so she can sit in the woods and get an animal with it. So that's my main focus, is to get her to understand fundamentally every part of a bow, what it does, what it means, how to use it, the best way to use it, and just enjoy that time with her. That would be my 100% focus for 2020, because she'll soon be 8, and then before you know it, she's going to be a teenager and out of my hands. And these right now, like I said, are the most important times for her to learn and be able to take that and grow with it.
So when I was putting my goals together for 2019, that was my goal with my kids. And it has been one of the best years I've ever had. And I only harvested 1 deer this year, which is still a great, it is food in our freezer, and I'm very proud of it. But my focus on my kids this year, there was so much joy that came out of it. And I'm excited to hear how your year is going to go, because I look back on 2019 as being, and I think my husband would also join me in that, and saying it has been one of our best years. Just seeing them grow. My son took his first deer this year.
That's awesome.
There's a sense of pride that comes, it is very emotionally charged. Watching your child go through the process of not just harvesting an animal, but going through hunter safety, going through, all of the lessons needed in preparation, learning how to be still. I mean, and these are all the years before the harvest even starts. So it has, just looking back, it has been one of the best years. And I think that I was a little fearful of it, that it would take away from what I selfishly could get done in a season. But now looking back on it, man, I'm excited. I'm excited for you. It's such a great goal. I love that.
That makes me excited. I'm ready. I haven't had that moment yet, and I know it's coming, but I just am ready for her to harvest her first animal. I know I'm going to be an emotional wreck, like you said. It's tough. I mean, it's tough teaching them. I get frustrated with it. I have to talk myself down many times.
Yes.
When I get upset and angry, and tell myself she's a child. She hasn't done this before.
Yeah.
She doesn't understand the process, not to mention she's my daughter, but again, too, it's just something that you build up to, and you don't want to force them to do something they don't want to do too. So that's another process you have to go through.
Yeah. We had, I can't tell you how many doe blew at us this year.
Oh yes.
That
not
happened.
So much with doe. Ours was with turkey.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. It's, those are learning lessons that my kids will walk away from having this year. And my daughter didn't. She went through hunter safety. She knows everything. She wanted this year to be kind of an observation year. And they all move in different time. I think that she'll be ready next year, but she just needed a year to watch and listen and learn and be just a part of it. So she was a great cheerleader for her brother, and it was wonderful seeing them alongside of each other do that.
That's awesome, and they need that time. Yep,
it's true. It's very true. Heather, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I loved having this conversation, and I'm truly excited to see where your year is going to go, where your daughter's year is going to go, and hopefully see where Miss Pursuit goes with all of this. So I appreciate your time tonight.
Yes, Amy, thank you so much. And again, thank you for inviting me. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed our time tonight, and I look forward to everything for 2020. Cross our fingers. It'll be an awesome year.
Yes, it's true. Hey, tell everybody how they can find you or follow you.
Yeah, so on my Instagram, you guys can follow me. It is, and I'm sorry, I just drew a blank. It's Heather_H_J Shepherd. And again, that is on Instagram. On Facebook, you can follow me at Heather Jones Shepherd, which is my full name. I also have Twitter as well as Pinterest. And then if you want to get personal, we can email and chat from there.
Okay. That sounds good. That sounds great. Hey, thank you, Heather.
Thank you so much, Amy.
All right. So again, make sure that you follow Heather on Instagram, H_J Shepherd. Facebook, Heather Jones Shepherd. She's also on Twitter and Pinterest. And thank you again, Heather. I appreciate it.